everything is just happening. Can we get a sense of that? Can we get a feeling for that? What we normally do is we start thinking about it, and sometimes that can actually help. A little bit of thinking can help us appreciate what's going on, but then we should not get caught up in that thinking. We should let the thinking go. Get a sense of what's happening without thinking about it. The trouble is, when we start thinking about what's happening, we get caught up in our ideas, and our ideas eventually take us further and further away from happening, further and further away from what is happening, until we start relating to what we think is happening rather than what is happening. Vasishta continued, "Since right in the very beginning there was neither a cause nor a motivation for creation to arise, there is neither being nor non-being, neither gross matter nor subtle mind, neither moving objects nor immobile objects." And the very beginning isn't some idea of millions of years ago at the beginning of the universe or whatever. The very beginning is right here. It's right here in that sense of something going on. So we don't get caught up in cause or why everything came into being, because we're assuming that there was once nothing and that something came into being. But as I said recently, you really have to prove that. Why do we assume there was nothing and then something happened? Nothing's an interesting idea, but nothing is outside anything that we've ever experienced, and yet we assume that this nothing is the natural state. It's quite bizarre, really. So there was no cause for something coming into being. I would say there should be a cause for nothing. We should be asking why there was nothing. But this is how we get things topsy-turvy, the other way around. So we're not even thinking in terms of being nor non-being. It's like a dream. Is a dream a real thing? Is a thought something real? Is an idea something real? Neither gross matter nor subtle mind. We're not getting into the whole body-mind thing. They're all of the one nature. Neither moving objects nor immobile objects. Well, surely there are moving objects. Well, do things move in a dream? Does a dream contain moving objects? What's actually moving in a dream? Because it's the same thing moving in a dream that is moving in our waking state. Also, in the previous chapter, we heard mention of the great silence. In chapter 53, the universe exists as the great silence. The great silence. That's part of that sense of something. If you can tune into that sense of something, the great silence is quite a good name for it. It could also be called the great stillness. The great stillness. Well, then it makes sense to talk of neither mobile or immobile objects. Consciousness is without form and cannot create this world of name and form, since cause and effect are identical, and only that which has form can create or change into some other form. The self remains the self all the time, fancying within the undivided consciousness all these diverse objects. And this is exactly what happens in a dream, isn't it? Whatever that consciousness experiences as if within itself, that and that alone is called the world or this creation. The world or this creation consists of our fixed ideas about what is going on. Before all this happened, That is, when one realizes that all this is unreal and non-existent. That's in the beginning, right here. Know that the one Brahman alone existed, utterly peaceful and homogenous. Again, it's like a dream. We don't differentiate the different parts of a dream when we talk about it. We just call it a dream. It's all of the same nature, isn't it? It's homogenous. Infinite consciousness is infinite consciousness. Water is water. And since this creation is conjured up by consciousness, it appears to be so created. Infinite consciousness is infinite consciousness. Water is water. I think we could update this and say H2O is H2O. We give lots of different names to water. We might call it a river. We might call different parts of the river different names, different oceans. If it's a river, we might give it an identity, not just a name, but we might spin a whole romance about it. There might even be a god associated with the river. The river takes on a character, an identity. But H2O is H2O, just as the infinite consciousness is infinite consciousness. We spin so many stories within the infinite consciousness. So this creation, in quote marks, is conjured up by consciousness. It appears that it's being created. We ask ourselves where did it come from? And we start pursuing that question. Just as the world one dreams of is an illusory appearance in one's consciousness, even so in the wakeful state, this world appears in consciousness as consciousness, although we don't think of it as consciousness. In the original creation, the dream of the undivided consciousness is known as the wakeful state, which is what we experience normally. The dream that rises in the consciousness of the beings that arise in that ignorance is known as the dream state. This fanciful dream has materialized, again that's in quote marks, into this world order by constant repetition. The river is but the movement of water, creation is the fancy of the infinite consciousness. So it's all dream, except through repeated affirmation, we regard aspects of the dream as real. We think in terms of the reality of these aspects.